Happy belated Thanksgiving, guys. Just got back into Los Angeles very, very late last night and still getting settled after a long vacation. You know, all things considered, Tiffany and I have traveled a lot this year, but it's pretty much been for work, whether it be boxing or her day job, my day job, or for family stuff every time. This is the first real vacation we've been on like this where it's just the two of us in 2 years, literally 2 years. So we just took 8 days driving all around California. And if California, I'll use my cell phone here, if California is this long state, right, and LA is down here at the very bottom, you know, we went across and up the east side of the state, all the way up north, came over, and then went down the west coast all the way back down to Los Angeles. It was a lot of fun, man. We drove probably 1,400 miles or something like that. She got a bunch of videos and photos and stuff, and she's going to put together a really cool video, and in the coming weeks, we'll send that out to you guys just to show you. But while we were in Frisco for a couple days, I put a little quick video on my channel just saying, hey, let's do a Q&A. And a lot of you guys responded. Thank you so much. Thank you to all you guys who said Happy Thanksgiving. I had a pretty fun one. We actually ended up eating at a buffet at a resort in Monterey. That's where we spent Thanksgiving. It was something different. It was pretty cool. But I hope all of you had a very, very happy Thanksgiving and a good week. A lot happening in the world of boxing that I'm going to have to catch up on in the next week. So I'm going to be dropping a lot of videos here in the next week or so. But wanted to get to your guys' questions. And I'm just going to go one by one here, man. So let's get started. Hashtag Joshua Klitschko asks, let's say Usyk wins the World Boxing Super Series like most are expecting and moves up to heavyweight in mid to late 2018. What can he achieve there? You know, it's never a good thing to look too far ahead for any fighter because so many things can happen, right? But Usyk has the potential, at least looks like, he could be the best cruiserweight since Evander Holyfield. We all know Evander Holyfield ended up moving up to heavyweight and being very successful and being one of the top dozen or so heavyweights of all time, at least in terms of accomplishment and what he did, especially pound for pound. So a lot of people think, or not a lot of people, a lot of cruiserweights in the past, cruiserweight champions have thought, oh, I can move up just like Evander did. It's just such a different era now. And there was no VADA when Holyfield moved up. You know, Holyfield's been tied to performance-enhancing drugs, HGH, stuff like that. Look at his fight with Tyson. They were both so juiced to the gills. Just look at those fights between them. I mean, they look so unnatural. There was no VADA. There was no real drug testing back then. A lot of the heavyweights were juicing. There's not a lot I can say on the record, but off the record, talking to people that were around in that time, and even some of the fighters and trainers themselves, I've just been at parties and functions and stuff, talking to some of those guys. The things I've heard, and I've been sworn to secrecy, it's off the record, but guys, trust me, there was a lot going on in that era in the 90s that would not pass a drug test right now. So that was part of Evander's success. That's not to take anything away from him. Everyone in that era was doing it. He had a lot of heart. But right now, you're dealing with much bigger, much more athletic heavyweights, at least at the top. I'm not saying the heavyweight division is stacked and as deep as it was in the 90s. But this heavyweight division, the guys are just bigger, taller, longer, stronger, and more skilled in the sense that they can work behind a long jab that's much harder for a smaller fighter to get inside of. So for Usyk, who's 6'3", I've met him in person. He's legitimately 6'3". A lot of times they'll list a guy at 6'3", he's really 6'1". But he's my kind of build, you know? And in my youth, when I was training and stuff in my youth, I was a light heavyweight. And Usyk was in his youth too. So he's a good-sized cruiserweight, but he doesn't have game-changing power. At heavyweight, he'd have no power. Skill-wise, he can be a top 5 heavyweight. But when he gets in there against guys like Wilder, Joshua, even maybe a guy like Joseph Parker, I just think he's going to struggle with the size and strength. But maybe he can have a chance. Let's see what develops with him at cruiserweight. Let's see if he learns the pro style of punching more, learns how to sit down on his punches, and develop some power. If he can do that, he'd have a chance. But for right now, let's see what he does in the World Boxing Super Series. I can't wait to see the next round next year. All right, King Doberman asks, who is your 2017 Fighter of the Year, also your Fight of the Year? All right, Fight of the Year, hands down, nothing's going to top it, is Joshua Klitschko. That's the Fight of the Year. That's it. End of discussion. I don't want to hear anything else. Fight of the Year, one of the best heavyweight fights we've had. Probably the best heavyweight fight since Holyfield Bowe. And that's saying something, man. That's going back 25 years. Such an important fight and a true passing of the torch. That was a gift Klitschko gave to Joshua that a lot of fighters in this era don't give to their heir apparent. So, Fight of the Year. Fighter of the Year. There's really no runaway favorite, man. I mean, right now, I'd probably go with Terrence Crawford because of what he did at 140 pounds. I do think that that is substantial. It's important. And I like that he's announced he's going up to welterweight. He's trying to tackle his third weight class. He'd have my vote, but you can make a strong case for Rungvisai. Rungvisai with 2 wins over Chocolatito. The first one, I don't think he won, but a lot of people do. A lot of people think he won that fight fair and square. The rematch, though, no controversy, no low blows, no help from the ref, no A side, B side. He just flat out ended Chocolatito's career. And we all know Roman Gonzalez is going to fight on in 2018. I don't think he should, but essentially that knockout blow that Rungvisai landed ended Chocolatito. He's done. He's never going to be the same. So you can make a case for him. Also, the winner between Lomachenko-Rigondeaux, which is coming up. Maybe that guy is the Fighter of the Year. We got to see how that fight plays out. So still, we need to see a couple things, but my vote early on is for Terrence Crawford. Carlos Espino asks, what are your thoughts on Deontay Wilder calling out AJ and people accusing AJ of trying to avoid Wilder? And, you know, look, with this, guys, look, this whole thing between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, everybody knows that's the big fight at heavyweight. And it's probably the biggest fight in the sport, figuratively and literally, once it happens. But right now, it's not the biggest fight in the sport. And the way these things happen with the promoters and people involved that know what they're doing, these things take a year or so to build. I'm not saying I love it. I did a video about this before, and a lot of you guys disagreed with what I was saying because you took it as this is what I want. It's not what I want. It's what I'm telling you is going to happen. Would I like these two to fight right now? Yes, of course. Is it going to happen? No. It's not going to happen. The earliest that fight happens is late next year. And I think something will take place to push it into 2019. Even if their intentions are to do it late next year. It'll be 2019. Look at the Canelo-Golovkin situation. That took a year and a half of building. And the fans complained on Twitter and went back and forth, and people said Canelo was ducking. Then a bunch of people said Golovkin was ducking. The promoters played games with these, flat fee offers, quote unquote, that were put out there that weren't legitimate, and people bought into it. All of that was part of the sausage being made, and the fight finally happened. That's what's going to happen here. So all the talk with Wilder and Joshua and Eddie Hearn, guys, just be patient. Wait till the end of 2018, early 2019. The fight will happen, and by then it'll have a year and a half of promotion, and all the titles will probably be at stake in that fight. So it'll be much, much bigger when it finally does happen. All right. Troy Williams. So how did you like North Cali? I bet it was chilly in Frisco. And then he makes a joke about Andre Ward. Did I ask Andre Ward for an interview up there? Nah, Andre, I'm not his favorite person. California, man, California is like 5 different states. And once you get out of Southern California, which is this whole metroplex of Los Angeles and San Diego, where there's 20 million people that disproportionately control the state and the country. They run the country. When you think about the way the media and everything is run, it's pretty much controlled by Los Angeles. It used to be New York. It's Los Angeles now. Once you leave this area and you go up north, California is a really nice state. There's parts of it where it's just kind of farm country and stuff, but it's pretty and it's peaceful and it's nice. It's so different than the LA area, the greater LA area. And they really could whack it up into 5 states, man. If I had any ties to the White House, to Congress, I would tell them, make Puerto Rico a state, right? It's already, I don't know if you call it a municipality or it's already tied to America where you don't even need a passport to go to Puerto Rico, right? So make Puerto Rico a state, and then you have 51 states. And that doesn't sound good. You go from 50 to 51 states. Okay, break up California into 5 states. So then you have 55 states. That's a nice sounding number, right? 50 to 55. Make Puerto Rico a state, whack up California into 5 states, because it really is. And it's unfair to the people outside of Southern California that their voice isn't heard enough because this area disproportionately controls this massive state. So whack it up into 5 states, and all these other little states will do much better for themselves. And LA can be its own thing, and it really wants to be anyway. Same with the Bay Area. But yeah, man, a lot of fun going and seeing all that. As I mentioned before, we'll post a video. But it's wacky. California's a wacky place. But man, really, really fun and interesting to see all the different, it really is different countries. And there are parts of California where you feel like you're in France or Italy or something. That's how it looks, or Spain even. It really has the same climate, the same feel to it. Really, really amazing place, man. Not the greatest place to live, amazing place to visit. Fight Savage asks a couple questions here. Well, first he says, we need to talk about AJ and his race to supremacy. I see what you did there, Fight Savage. I'm going to do a rant video, guys, on Anthony Joshua's racist comments about his Nazi propaganda about a superior race. I will address that. I got to catch up. Just the timing with that was so bad because it happened right before I went on vacation, and I just haven't kept up. I don't know if there's any news with that, or if Eddie Hearn said anything, if AJ said anything, or if they're just trying to sweep it under the rug, which is what I think is happening, and it's rather unfortunate. So I will talk about that. But okay, Fight Savage asks, is it even possible for AJ to be considered an all-time great in this supposed weak era? Yeah. Yeah, look, man, the heavyweight division traditionally, if you compare it to every other division, is generally speaking, in terms of talent, pound for pound, one of the weakest divisions in this sport, in any era. There have been a few golden eras of heavyweight boxing, but it's the little guys who are always the best. Because when you get, the bigger you get, the slower you are, the less mobile, and the more options there are for other sports. If you're a guy who weighs 135 pounds, there's not a lot of options. Boxing's one of the few options where you could become a multi-millionaire if you weigh 135 pounds or something. So it's not like the heavyweight division has always been stacked and suddenly it's void of any talent. And I talked earlier about the Joshua Klitschko fight. First of all, I think Vladimir Klitschko is an all-time great heavyweight. I think he's in the top dozen or so heavyweights, and I think he'll be more appreciated in the decades to come. I think 20 years from now, people will be like, man, remember guys like Klitschko who fought 60 plus times and always showed up in shape and had fundamentals and threw straight punches, worked behind a jab? Man, we need guys like that again. It's kind of the way people talk about Lennox Lewis now. So I do think he's an all-time great, and Joshua technically has a win over him. And that's what I talked about before, the gift that Klitschko gave heavyweight boxing fans, the heavyweight division, and eventually Anthony Joshua. AJ now has a win over an all-time great heavyweight, and the torch has been passed. And I realize that Klitschko is coming off a loss, a huge layoff. He was well faded past his best, blah, blah, blah. Guys, I get it. But the way this has happened throughout boxing history, man, I could go back to Rocky Marciano beating Joe Louis, right? And we could go back to just every generation. There's been this passing of the torch. Even when Lennox Lewis beat a completely shot Mike Tyson, that was a symbolic passing of the torch. And those two fighters were on two completely different levels, especially at that time when they fought. But for the mainstream fans, the casual fans, seeing Tyson, the last guy, lose to Lewis, it made him the guy in their minds, right? Klitschko did that for Joshua. So now he's got a win over an all-time great, and Klitschko owned a division for a decade. Even when his brother came back, Vladimir was still the guy. That enough, the number of defenses, unifying all the titles and all that stuff. And the only reason he never got the BC is because his brother had it and then Al Heyman got it. That's the only reason Vladimir never got it. Joshua, eventually will hopefully get Deontay Wilder. And the winner of that, if it's Joshua, then he gets all the titles. Klitschko is able to become an all-time great in a very, very weak era, is what I'm trying to say. Joshua can do the exact same thing. And unlike Klitschko, now Joshua has a signature victory he can hang his hat on, at least for, hey, I took the last generation and grabbed the bull by the horns, and now this is my generation. And if he gets someone like Wilder, if he has that signature opponent in their prime to solidify himself, that's something that Vladimir never got. David Haye was supposed to be that guy. Turns out he wasn't. There were several fighters that were kind of flashes in the pan. If Wilder and Joshua keep winning and eventually fight early 2019, there you go, man. That's enough for Joshua to be considered an all-time great in this stage, this era of boxing. Also, Fight Savage asked, World Boxing Super Series, should it expand to continental or nation versus nation? You know what, brother? Right now with the World Boxing Super Series, don't change a thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So far, I love it. Don't need to see anything change. Tim Nick asked, Montero, my question, did any reporter try to interview the referee Tony Weeks who stopped Kovalev after the illegal nut punch by Ward? Did you try? Tim Nick, I refuse to go to that rematch. There's certain things going on, again, off the record that I can't talk about, and then there's things on the record that I have talked about that made me decide to almost boycott covering that event, even though they really, really wanted me to. Even Rock Nation asked me to go, and I wasn't doing it. So no, I didn't interview anybody related to that fight. And as far as anybody else doing it, I doubt it. And a lot of times the commission protects the officials. And you want to get access to a judge, you want to get access to a referee, they're out of the arena before you even get a chance. If you look at what happened with the Canelo-Golovkin fight, and everyone remembers when I reamed Bob Bennett, at least Bob Bennett showed his face that night, but they got the judges, ref, everyone out of there. There was no way you were getting them for an interview. And that's just the way that it works. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be more transparent. All right, JZ2556 asks, what makes you more passionate about boxing over other combat sports such as Muay Thai or MMA? I just think boxing's better. And I'm not just saying that because I enjoy watching boxing more, and that is true. I think it's more aesthetically pleasing. I tried judo, man. In high school, I don't know if I've ever talked about this. I worked at Burger King for a while in high school, and me and my boy who worked there, one of our managers was a black belt in judo, and he trained people, and he also managed a Burger King. And he was like, guys, you can come in and train for free with me. He didn't charge us. He was like, you just have to buy a gi. So, we bought a gi, and we went there and trained. And for like almost a year, I tried it. And me and my boy tried it. We just didn't like it. I don't like being on the ground. I didn't like that feeling of being on the ground. All the stuff when you were on your feet, that was pretty cool. We went over some jiu-jitsu and aikido. He taught us a couple of things, the arm bars and stuff like that, using an opponent's inertia against them. And a lot of those principles also apply to boxing. So it's interesting how all martial arts are really, really connected in a certain way, at least when you're on your feet. Once you get to the ground, though, it really is a different thing. And dude, it just wasn't for me. And watching it, it's just not aesthetically pleasing. I respect those guys, and I know that there's some real craft to it. Just not my thing, man. It's like, there's other sports out there that I really enjoy watching, and some that just aren't my thing. So that's really it. Kat Clemens asks, what are the 2018 fights that you're most looking to? We got a lot coming up, man. Kat, look, a lot of people are saying that 2018 is going to be a horrible year. It's not going to be as good as 2017, and we're not going to get the super fights we want. We'll get Canelo Golovkin 2, but I'm starting to think it's going to happen in September. But here's what we're going to get. The World Boxing Super Series finale. We're going to see those tournaments end, and I think those are going to be awesome finales. So we got the semis, then the finals. So we're going to get both rounds of that in the first half of next year, which is going to be awesome. Also, the light heavyweight division is stacked. We just saw the return of Sergey Kovalev. He looked good. We just saw Sullivan Barrera again. He continues to look good. He is now the mandatory for Dmitry Bivol, I think. Beterbiev has a belt. Kovalev has a belt. Those guys have a rivalry that goes back to the amateurs. They've fought before. So we're going to get some heat in the light heavyweight division next year. Also, middleweight. Yeah, we're going to get Canelo Golovkin too at some point. But you got Charlo fighting there now. You got the winner between Saunders and Lemieux. That fight's coming up. The winner of that fight, they're going to be in the mix for something. You know, maybe in May, Canelo fights the winner of that fight. It could very well happen. We got some things happening in two of the old classic divisions in boxing, light heavyweight and middleweight. Welterweight, I hope we see more action, but that's controlled by Heyman. But we're going to see Terrence Crawford make a splash there. So some of those classic divisions, we're going to see some movement. And at some point, you know, I do think it's very possible we could see Joshua and Parker next year. I like that fight a lot. So we're going to see further unification at heavyweight. It's going to be a year where things get done. The super fights we want are going to get pushed back a little bit. That's going to be frustrating. But don't sleep on 2018, guys. Don't give up. I think we got a lot of stuff to look forward to. AXIOM TV ask a really interesting question here. I don't want to read this whole thing, but he basically asked, do you think life has an intrinsic purpose? And he says, hint, nature endowed us with curiosity, it seems, to question it. You know what, man? Strip away society, strip away religion, philosophy, all of that, and just look at what life does, right? I'm alive. This cell phone is not. This camera I'm talking to is not. What is the difference between, well, there's a million differences, but just strip away everything. What is the difference between me and this object? I have life. There's life in me. When I die, that life is gone, and I'm pretty much this, except I rot. This doesn't. I'm just an object at that point, right? So what is life? And what is life's purpose? Well, if you look at what life does, life finds a way to thrive and progress. To me, that is not the meaning of life, but the purpose of life. And what life's mission is to continue, to progress, to find a way to keep going. And if you look at all the things human beings have been through, all the plagues, the natural disasters, and all the times we almost went extinct. And if you look at all the creatures and civilizations that did go extinct, right? Human beings have won the freaking lottery in a way, but we are the most advanced form of life that has found a way to keep thriving and keep going. And I think that is what life does. And at some point, we'll leave this planet and go somewhere else and explore more and more and more, and we'll change the way we look. 20,000 years from now, humans won't look the way we look. We might not even be human anymore. We might evolve into some other damn thing. I don't know. But life, that force that connects all living things, that will continue to thrive. That is the way I see it, brother. Curious how you see it. Gav Bridges asks, crystal ball question as we reach the end of a great 2017. What names do you see worldwide breaking out in 2018? And then he names a couple of Brits that he thinks have a chance. Anthony Yard, who I think is a light heavyweight prospect. These are two UK guys. And Daniel Dubois, the undefeated heavyweight. I like Daniel Dubois. And I don't know, is it Dubois or Dubois? 5-0, 6'5", 20 years old. This dude was born 3 months after I graduated high school. Not cool. But he has a fight coming up too, I want to say in a week or so, in December. I absolutely think he's going to break out a little bit next year because it doesn't take much with heavyweights, right? In this age, people want to see heavyweights. So by the time you've got 10 or a dozen fights and you're knocking people out, you're undefeated, you're on the map as a heavyweight. So I do think next year Daniel Dubois will hit and be on the map as far as a heavyweight to look at. But Ryan Garcia, undefeated junior lightweight or super featherweight prospect, 130-pound prospect with Golden Boy Promotions. Even younger, he's only 19 years old. 19 years old, 12-0, 5'10". He's massive for that division. He'll eventually grow to be probably around 140, somewhere in there. And Golden Boy's matching him right. It's with a good, solid promoter. But both of these guys, Ryan Garcia, Daniel Dubois, both of them need rounds. Most of their fights, I think almost all of them, have only gone 1 or 2 rounds. They're just drilling guys. They need rounds. They need work. And as that happens, there's going to be some bumps in the road. But Ryan Garcia, demographically speaking, he's from Southern California. He's with Golden Boy Promotions. He has the whole package to be something. So I do think we're going to see more and more of him on ESPN and stuff like that, maybe even HBO by the end of next year. The heavyweight, Daniel Dubois, someone to look out for. You know, for Anthony Yard, I got to see a little bit more of him. I got to see more of him. We'll see. Also, Gav Bridges asks, any plans to make it out to Britain for one of our little events? Brother, I'm trying. I want to so bad, and it's on the bucket list. There's a few things going on business-wise and family-wise that have made it difficult for me to get away. And I hope that next year that opens up a bit. But I absolutely want to get out there and see all you guys and hang out. Absolutely want to see an event out there, but I want to just see you guys and meet everybody. And especially the staff at Boxing Monthly, which has been so good to me. And I've been talking to some people, some other platforms there in the UK that I might start contributing with a little more too. So more to come with that. AKFIU asks, thoughts on net neutrality? Net neutrality isn't an issue I've delved into enough to give a really elaborate response. I'll just say this: when it comes to anything internet, I don't think that there should be any control of it. I don't think you have to monitor things. You know, there's terrorism, there's people using it for all sorts of horrible purposes. So yes, you have to monitor things and control things. But in terms of content and freedom, and being able to use a search engine to find things, there should be no, some of the algorithms that Google uses and some of these other or Bing, I think it is, there's almost a little social engineering going on. You know, there's things, I'm not going to get into it here and get too political, but there's things they're trying to do to curve people's opinion and formulate things on certain political and social issues just through the way search engines work. I think when it comes to anything internet, it should be the wild, wild west. It should be total freedom, obviously until somebody's rights are being infringed upon. And that's it. So that's all I'll say. You know what? Your question makes me want to look into that issue more, so I'm going to research more about that. Drew asks, do you speak Italian? Sì, parlo un poco di italiano perché mio nonno di Italia. Quando ero bambino ho imparato le lingue di italiano di mia nonna. So yeah, a little bit. And a little bit of Spanish, and I've learned a couple of phrases of Mandarin and even Korean in my time here in Los Angeles. So yeah, speak a little bit. Georgie Goff asked me to rank the top 10 middleweights. Just some of these would be interchangeable, and we got to see what happens with a fight coming up. But number 1, Triple G. Number 2, Canelo. Jacobs would be 3rd. Saunders 4th. Sergey Derevianchenko 5th. Charlo 6th. Lemieux 7th. Murata 8th. Andrade 9th. And Willie Monroe Jr. 10th. Now that might change around a little, interchangeable, but those are pretty much the top 10 guys. And when you look at that top to bottom, I'm sorry, guys, that's a pretty damn loaded division, man. Middleweight's stacked right now. Bob Brown, not a question, but he says Montero, Fisher, and Kim are the dream team. I concur, sir. Every time I've worked with both of those gentlemen, who I look to as mentors, really, I feel like we make a pretty good team. I think the episodes of 10 Count that we've done for Undisputed Champion Network, anytime it's the 3 of us, those are the best episodes. Unfortunately for UCN Live, we're not seeing eye to eye right now, myself and the executives there. They're trying to take advantage of people and doing some unethical things that I don't agree with. It has nothing to do with the talent on the channel. I'm talking about the executives, the people at the top, the money guys. And until they iron some things out and become more professional, I don't know if I'm going to be doing 10 Count for a while, guys. Some of the things happening there, it's pretty much being run like The boxing voice. I can't get down with that, man. I have ethics. All right, next. Calm M. How many garbage t-shirts have you sold? Oh, over or under 7? 7. Okay. Calm M. Let me answer your question this way. I've sold t-shirts in more than 7 countries. Okay? My first order sold out. I had to do a second order, and we're still waiting on them. We had an issue with the printer. The guys that do the t-shirts for us had an issue, a mechanical issue that they're fixing. So it should be another week or so before we get our t-shirts. So those of you who have ordered and paid for them, guys, I'm so sorry. They are coming, they're on the way, and I'll find a way to make it up to you and sweeten the deal a little bit, because I know you've been waiting for weeks, and I apologize for that. But Calm M, let me ask you this, and you know what? This video, at the time I'm filming this, the Q&A video that I posted up asking you guys to ask questions had over 50 upvotes and only 2 downvotes. And obviously, Calm M is one of the guys who did a downvote. Let me ask you this, man. If you're so mad at me about selling t-shirts, you obviously don't like me, why are you taking the time to downvote my video, watch it, and leave a review or leave a comment? Why are you taking the time to do that? And see, that's the difference between me and you. You're mad, you're obsessed, you're insecure, you're jealous, I don't know what. I'm a guy that's trying to build something. I'm creating something of value. I'm doing this in an entrepreneurial spirit, and I'm building a community with like-minded individuals, the dozens who ask questions here, who support each other. We're supporting each other in this endeavor, this sport of boxing that we love. That's what I'm working on, and you're just being a jealous, obsessed asshole. That's the difference between you and me. Donald Fecht asked about Yoriokas Gamboa. He bet on him to win. Good bet. He won a very, very controversial decision over Sosa last night. I'll talk more about that in this week's episode of The Neutral Corner. Can you make shorter videos, please? I have to watch you on break in work. My wife hates you as she feels you're always on in the background. My man, tell your wife I'm sorry. This video is probably going to be over an hour because I have so many questions. And I'm trying to answer them quickly. You know what I'm saying? I can ramble. I love to ramble. This video could be hours long. You know, though, let me say this, Donald, and tell your wife this. Year-end awards coming up. I'm going to do a lot of year-end videos, and I'm going to break those up into several small videos so I have stuff to release every few days. So I'm going to start shooting those in the next coming weeks. So all my year-end award stuff, all my year-end videos, they're going to be nice, short, sweet. You're going to dig those, and your wife will dig them too, my man. All right, Freaky92. I think that means Freaky92. How often do people ask you for autographs? Oh, hey. I don't know if you're being sarcastic there, but you know what? No one's ever asked me for an autograph, but I've been asked to take photos with a lot of you guys out there that I've bumped into, man, and it's one thing to bump into people at a fight, but we randomly we'll be on vacation, we'll be out and about in different towns, different cities, different parts of the country, and people will be like, yo, Michael Montero. And at first I'm like, I don't know who it is. I'm like, do I owe this guy money? What's up? But then he's like, no, man, I watch your stuff, and you know, and I've met so many of you guys all over the place from different parts of the world too, man. I bumped into some of you guys from the UK, from Australia, visiting America on vacation and bumping into each other randomly. And it's just, that's what's so amazing about what I do and what's so amazing about social media, man. So, yeah, no autograph yet, though. That will be an interesting, that'll be kind of a breakthrough if something like that happens, you know. All right. Oh, you also asked me, can you tell me in one sentence who you think will win the Rigo-Loma fight? Okay, I could do that. I believe Vasyl Lomachenko will defeat Guillermo Rigondeaux by decision because he is simply the better fighter at this point in their careers. That's it. Oleg Abatini asked, do you think being a sports fan is worth it? I love boxing and also football, but sometimes I think I'm wasting my time sitting in front of the TV rooting for guys I have never met, getting emotionally invested in guys I've never met. and living vicariously through others while I could be spending the time focusing on my own life? Well, another philosophical question here, Oleg. Look, you make a good point. Let me just say this. In life, you need an escape. You need sometimes to just sit back, relax, not have to worry about things, not be on, as I call it, being on, which means, being engaged. And you only have so much energy to dedicate every day. And you have to spread that energy around to your loved ones, to your job, maybe to your business if you own a business, to your goals. Maybe you have fitness goals or some other goals, your relationships, all of that. And there's only so much energy. And then you got to replenish. You replenish with food, you replenish with sleep, but sometimes you replenish also with an escape. And there's nothing wrong if it's sports, if it's music, I don't know, man. Maybe it's cooking, whatever, painting. People have different hobbies, different escapes. Watching films, there's nothing wrong with that. I would say sports is such a big thing for men because men are competitive. We have all this testosterone going through us. We're bred to be killers. Men are killers. You look back at how our race got by for millions and millions of years. We were killers, man. There is an ingrained nature in you to want to go out and kill shit and, hunt and kill things and eat them and conquer, to divide and conquer and achieve. That's all the testosterone. That's what separates us from women. Women are more about cooperating and getting along and that kind of stuff. And of course, there are exceptions to all these rules, so SJWs don't jump down my throat. But that's really what is ingrained in men. It's to go out there, divide, conquer, spread our seed, destroy cities and build our own stuff over it. Look at how our race went for eons, right? All that evolution, all that programming and wiring is still in you. And the way we get that out in modern society for a lot of guys is sports, because you can be competitive, you can challenge yourself, and I think that's why guys love sports so damn much. So there's nothing wrong with watching sports, man. But there can be a point where I think it's too much, where you need a break. And even for me, I work in boxing, and this is something that I follow every freaking day. I just took a week off, man. I didn't write any articles. I didn't do nothing, right? I just took a whole week off. You have to give yourself a break. And you shouldn't live vicariously through somebody else. It's okay to admire other people and emulate them. Look, man, when you see successful people, you should want to be like them. And it doesn't matter if it's a successful boxer or a successful businessman, successful husband, father, whatever it is. You see a successful person, you should want to act like them. So there's nothing wrong with it. I train in boxing, right? I train, I work out. I like to stay competitively fit. I watch fighters. I look at what they do. When I go to the gym and I see guys training, I look at what they do. I emulate their movements. Am I living vicariously through them? No. I'm just seeing things that work, and I'm applying it to my own training. And you can take that and you can apply that to all facets of your life, brother. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a sports fan. Not at all. In fact, it's probably good for your health. Just don't take it too far, because then it could become bad for your health. Jay Perez asks, Michael, do you think Tyson Fury can come back and be competitive against the top heavyweights? The biggest issue with Tyson Fury is his brain and his emotions. And there's some faulty wiring in there. He has depression, mental illness. If he can get past that and put it all together, he abso-freaking-lutely can be competitive. His style is such that he's not necessarily a go-forward aggressive fighter. His style is to neutralize what you do. And just seeing him hit the mitts, I saw some clips of him in the past week or two, just working mitts. He's still quite large and pudgy, portly, as the Brits say. But he's nimble, man. For a guy his size, he's very nimble and moves very well. He moves way better than Anthony Joshua in terms of his nimbleness. AJ's very stiff and rigid. He's getting better. But Tyson, he's got that movement up top. He's very, very nimble. And if he got himself in shape, I think he could be a challenge. What's going to be tough for him is getting back into the fighting condition. I'm not just talking about physical condition. I'm talking about fighting condition he was in when he fought Vladimir Klitschko. Because, man, taking several years off during your prime, man, you can't just jump right back in. You have to work your way back in. And I just don't know if he has the discipline to do that. Scorpio11477 asks, have you ever been to the old country, meaning Italy? You know what, man? I've never been. I've had opportunities to go, but it was only for like a week. And when I go, I've always told myself, I want to go for at least a month. And I want to soak it all in. What me and Tiff just did here in California, driving all around it, coast to coast, north, south, east, and west, that's what I want to do in Italy. Except I want to do that over a month. And I've always said, you know what? I think I'm going to save Italy for my honeymoon. I think that's something I'm going to leave special for the woman I marry. And that's what I think I'm going to do. If an opportunity comes up to go over there for some sort of project or something where I'm there for a month or more, maybe I'll explore that beforehand. But I think that's probably where the honeymoon's going to be. So we'll see. Adam, this last name, Zoskowitz. Okay, if I'm even close, Adam, you gotta let me know, because there's a lot of consonants in this last name, brother. He asked a few questions here. Are you going to make a prediction video for Loma Rigo? No, not going to make a prediction video because it's too close and I've just been too busy. I haven't been able to get around to it. Of course, I'll break it down, though, in the neutral corner. He asks, do you think Rigo could win? How? What's next if it happens? Then he asked about Gennady Golovkin. How do you see Golovkin ending his career? What matchup do you dream of or think will happen? And then he asked, do I follow a diet? Okay, so with Rigondeaux, he can absolutely beat Lomachenko. Guys, everyone's making a big to-do about the weight between Lomachenko and Rigondeaux. That fight has nothing to do with weight. Nothing. Not that it isn't somewhat of an advantage for Lomachenko. It is. He's the naturally slightly bigger man. Yes, he is. That fight is about skills. Styles make fights. And Lomachenko is not a stalker. He's not a pressure fighter. He's not a fighter that uses weight and size to bear down on his opponent. If you want to see an example of that, look at Lomachenko's fight against Orlando Salido. Salido purposely came in heavy, purposely hustled them on the weight. Didn't even tell them that they weren't trying to make weight. Came in as a welterweight against Lomachenko because Salido's style is to use his weight and to get rough and rough up his opponent. So that's a situation where weight directly affected a fight. In this situation, looking at the way Rigondeaux and Lomachenko fight, neither of them use weight, they use skills. This fight is going to come down to whose skills are better, who can employ their skill set better. And I believe that's going to be Lomachenko. But I could be surprised, and it could be Rigondeaux. If Rigondeaux does win, he might be the pound-for-pound #1 fighter in boxing. If he can move up in weight technically and beat a guy that many have right up there, #2 or 3 pound-for-pound, look, that takes that Donaire win that was 5-6 years ago and adds to that. Donaire was a pound-for-pound guy at the time. I never really considered him a high-level pound-for-pound talent, but accomplishment-wise, he was pound-for-pound. And he was the fighter of the year. And Rigondeaux mopped the floor with him. If he comes here and now beats Lomachenko all this time later, Rigondeaux might be the best fighter in the world, pound for pound. If Lomachenko beats him, though, you got to give him the same respect. And you got to put him up at least near the top, #1 or #2. So the winner of that fight is right in the discussion for pound #1. Now, as far as Golovkin, how do I see him ending his career? I have a controversial take on Golovkin, who I get accused of being a Golovkin homer all the time and, a fanboy, blah, blah, blah. People have asked me, will Golovkin retire undefeated? And I say, no, absolutely not. Golovkin will not retire undefeated. Golovkin's going to lose, and he's going to lose more than once. He's going to lose a couple times before he hangs him up, and there's nothing wrong with that. If Golovkin moves up to 168 pounds or heavier, he's going to lose at some point. He's going to fight someone that's too young, too strong, catches him on a bad night. It could look like the Klitschko-Fury fight in a way. I know the styles are different, but in a way, it could kind of look like that. It could kind of look like the Klitschko-Joshua fight in that Golovkin could be completely outboxing somebody, but get knocked down and knocked out eventually by a younger, more dynamic, hungrier fighter who's just in their physical prime. And simply that youthful exuberance, that energy wins out the day. I can see that happening. If I was managing Golovkin's career, and I've let their team know this, I'd stay at 160 pounds until he retires. I'd do the Marvin Hagler thing. I would stay there. I would fight a couple of these young contenders coming up, continue to own in that division, clean it out, take all the titles, beat Bernard Hopkins' record, and eventually be in the same discussion as guys like Hagler and Monzon, right? That's what I would do. Do I think that'll happen? No. I think eventually they'll dump titles and move up for money fights at 168 pounds. And eventually, he's going to lose a couple of fights. That's what I think is going to happen. Not because I dislike Golovkin. I'm a huge Golovkin guy. You guys know that. Do I follow a diet? I try to. What I try to do Monday through Friday is, it's great to have a girlfriend, guys, because Tiffany, she cooks lunches. Like Sunday, I'm filming this on Sunday. She'll cook a bunch of food today and pack it all up, and we have lunches for the week. Monday through Friday, I do real good, regimented. On the weekend, I live a little. The problem is, sometimes, a lot of times in business, when you meet people for meetings and stuff like that, they want to meet at a bar. They want to have a drink. They want to have a snack. And I'm not as disciplined as I should be in those moments. I probably drink a little too much beer. I probably eat a little too much snacks. But I still probably do better than 90% of America. Now, for those of you not from America watching this, that's probably not saying much because Americans have awful diets. But here's a couple of tips. I don't drink anything in my house. Anything. Except, I'm talking non-alcohol. I don't drink anything except water and coffee. And I only drink black coffee. I don't put a bunch of sugar or anything in it. I will drink tea as well. I don't put anything in my tea. Water is all you'll find in my house. No pop. I call it pop. You guys will know it is soda. No orange juice, cranberry juice, none of this juice because that's just nothing but sugar. Also, very, very little processed foods, man. I used to eat stuff like cereal. I love cereal. And even stuff that's like healthy cereal, you think. Look at the nutrition info on the box. It is full of freaking sugar. And I was, a single guy for many, many years. And at midnight, I'd be watching a fight or something and eating a bowl of cereal for dinner. And you kill 2 bowls of Frosted Flakes and then go to sleep. Not good. So that, or I'd eat a watermelon and go to bed, or a bunch of fruit. Chill on the fruit. Don't eat too many carbs after midday. Don't eat too many carbs at night. Watch the fruit. If you're going to do fruit and carbs and that stuff, do it in the morning or in the afternoon. Don't do it in the evening. In the evening, keep it to meat and veggies if you can. And eat low carbs, low bread, and get the processed food out of your house. Another thing, don't cook with salt. Too many Americans oversalt their food, man. That's one thing. I'm so glad I have grandparents from overseas. We never had salt in our house growing up. You don't need it. Salt is in everything. I've seen Americans salt hot dogs. Seriously. Put salt on a freaking hot dog. I've seen people do that. You don't need salt in your home. Philip Perry, do you enjoy the opera? Yeah, look, man, I'm not a connoisseur, but I love the tenors. I saw Andrea Bocelli sing here at Hollywood Bowl, which is one of the coolest venues in America, if not the world, and it was worth every freaking penny. Every freaking penny, man. I spent hundreds of dollars for those tickets, but it was worth it. But yeah, I've seen a few operas here and there. I do enjoy the tenors. I enjoy some symphony. Some of that stuff is pretty cool, man. Ludovico Einaudi, he had a CD recently called Elements that had some cool tracks on it. Check that out, man. St. Cruzan, go to North Beach for Italian food in this neighborhood in San Francisco, and that's actually where we stayed, man. We stayed right Fisherman's Wharf, kind of between Fisherman's Wharf and North Beach, like right there, right by Pier 39, I think it was. So we did walk through North Beach and get some food. He asked, do you think fans are being too hard on Keith Thurman? Some are. Some are not. It depends who you're talking about. or who you're talking, which fans you're talking about. Keith Thurman is a tough one, man, because good personality. I like some of the things he says, but he's only fought one time in 2016 and 2017. He seems to me to be a guy who's doing just enough. When he gets in the ring, he takes it seriously and he fights hard, and I appreciate that. But this isn't his passion. Boxing isn't his passion. His passion is exploring life and learning, and that's kind of cool. I kind of dig that about him. He's about self-exploration and expanding his mind and seeing different parts of the world, right? He just went to Nepal and got married and all this stuff. So I dig that. But boxing is one of those things where if you don't live it, eat it, drink it, sleep it, breathe it, 24/7, it's going to catch up with you. And at some point, one time's going to get caught and upended. Hopefully for him, it's against an elite level fighter and not some stay busy type of fight. But when you've got more going on outside the ring than inside the ring, that's going to catch up with you. Again, I'll go back to the Klitschko-Fury fight. We could see a performance like that from Thurman, although I wouldn't put Thurman in the same sentence as Vladimir Klitschko. But I do think some fans are a little too hard on the guy. It's his right to do whatever the hell he wants. But honestly, maybe some fans aren't hard enough. I mean, maybe we should demand more from fighters. It's frustrating when you see a guy who could be so huge. And look, if Keith Thurman were with like Top Rank, he'd already have a loss or two. He'd have a couple losses, but he'd be a bigger brand. He'd be more popular. He'd be on some of the late night TV shows and stuff. And we would have seen him in better fights already. But you look at some of his last few opponents, they were top 10 welterweights. He won those fights. I thought he clearly won them. So you got to give him that much credit, you know? So to answer your question, a little yes, a little no. Cody8804 asks, why do so many fans shit on PBC again and again, but they tune into every single fight as if, ... it's good? You know, Cody, look, man, again, it depends on what fans you're talking about. And to say that people tune into every single fight, that's not the case. Look at their ratings. There are some fights where they do amazing ratings, and there's a lot of fights where they do horrible ratings. It's a mixed bag. I think PBC deserves a lot of the criticism it gets. They tried a hostile takeover of boxing. It didn't work. That's fine. They're not the first, won't be the last. But it held back several of the glamour divisions. Look at the welterweight division. The fight between Thurman and Garcia, that should have happened the first year of PBC. That should have already happened. Maybe the second year of PBC, whatever. It should have happened before this year. It's just an example, right? Look at Errol Spence fighting once this year. Maybe it was twice. But after that win over Brook, he sat on ice. Too much of that's happening. So I think the criticism is fair and just. And when they get it right, when they do a good fight, the fans show up. They watch the fight. They go to it. They do a good number. They do a decent gate and a great viewership. Look at the ratings for Thurman Garcia and other fights. So they get props when they deserve it. They get criticism when they deserve it. Some fans are too quick to give them credit. Some fans are too quick to give them criticism. But you're using blanket statements here, bro. Every single fight? No. There's nuance here. Let's not forget nuance, okay? Moss AB, you do know you have an IMDb page, right? Yes, and there's a lot of crap on there that I wish wasn't. I have no control over it. I've actually emailed the IMDb people like, can you remove this and this? And they're like, sorry, but no. There's a bunch of like student films and crap that I worked on when I first started acting and had no idea what I was doing. I had no training and was just kind of doing it for fun with some friends. And I look back at some of that stuff now and it's cringeworthy and I wish I could take it off, but I have no control over that page. Devin Cruz asks, are there any potential dark horses you see in the heavyweight division in the coming years? I talked about him before. Daniel Dubois, coming up in the right market, good promoter. He's with the Bob Arum of the UK, Frank Warren, I believe. Who knows what he's doing. We'll build him up right. And good size, good everything. raw, young. I just hope he's built up the right way. But he's definitely somebody that you guys will start having an eye on more and more next year. USC Trojan Zone. I know who that is. With your fake name, I know who you are. He asked, have I ever gone gay? Good one, pal. I know who you are. I call my homies at LCN to take care of you. Have I ever gone gay? You bastard. Eric Gordy. Oh, you know, I should answer the question. No, because if I didn't answer the question, some LDBC guy would make a video. Montero's gay. Eric Gordy. Opinion on how Arum set up Crawford for Horn. Set up. I guess you're talking about the WBO situation, how Crawford is going to get a fight with Jeff Horn. Look, man, I've talked about the WBC being in the PBC Al Heyman business for a while. The WBO, and I believe Horn has the WBO welterweight title, they've been in the Bob Arum business now for a while. Bob Arum is the top rank of the American power promoters. They're the international promoter, right? They went over to the Asian markets, to the Latin American markets, before any of the other American promoters. And the WBO is kind of seen as the international sanctioning body. They're really, really heavy over in Europe and Asia especially. So yeah, Arum gets things done with the WBO. And it totally makes sense how he was able to line up Crawford for Horn. Look, Crawford Horn is a one-sided beatdown, but for a first fight at 147 for Crawford to travel over to Australia and fight for a title, I think it's a pretty damn good first fight at 147 pounds, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm actually really looking forward to that fight, because one thing about Horn, he's going to make it physical and maul and grapple the hell out of Crawford, and we're going to see how Crawford can handle being in against the guy who's naturally a little bigger and stronger than him. So bring it on. Condoleezza Rice asked, do you think Keith Thurman is holding the belt hostage? He's had a million excuses, some of them valid, but come on already. Look, this goes back to the other question where, you know, someone asked, are people being too hard on Keith Thurman? Here's an example of somebody that I think is being very, very fair. A million excuses, holding the belt hostage. Look, I think it's up to the sanctioning organization to demand guys fight their mandatories and all that. But with Thurman, he hasn't ducked anybody for years like Adonis Stevenson has at light heavyweight. He only fights once a year. It's frustrating, but technically he fulfills his mandatory obligations and everything. I can't rate Thurman in a pound-for-pound discussion or anything like that because he simply doesn't fight often enough. That's my issue with him. He just needs to fight more often. Hopefully he will next year. John Newman asks, in your opinion, what is the best grassroots level boxing item, journalist, publication, local or club level fighters, VADA, etc., for fans to support? He also asks, favorite Thanksgiving side and favorite holiday. As far as who to support for, I don't know if you mean financially, but I'm going to assume that you mean financially. For VADA, guys, you can go to VADA's page, and if you feel so inclined and you want to give a donation to VADA, you can. You could go to their page and make a donation and a pledge. And for a lot of you, that might be a smart thing to do. It might also, some of you who really, really care about the performance-enhancing drugs and are concerned about that kind of stuff, I would highly recommend going there and volunteering. VADA doesn't make a ton of money. They're pretty much making... They charge for the services they provide and nothing more. They're not making a profit. I've talked about this before. Several of the officers with VADA, they don't get paid anything. They volunteer their time. So it's not just the fighters volunteering, it's the staff at VADA. Now, the scientific people, the forensic people, all that, they have to pay them for their services. So that's different. But the actual officers, the people involved, they're not getting paid, man. So, and this stuff is expensive. And I've talked about the WBC's clean boxing program and all the issues there. And a lot of it comes down to budget. So if that's important to you, absolutely. As far as publication that I really, really believe in, you know, I'm going to plug Boxing Monthly's website. Of course, the magazine's awesome, right? And if you're into, there's something about magazines, there's something about printed media It has a nostalgic feel to it in modern times, right? Because everything's online. But there's something about getting this in the mail and being able to open it up and collect them and go back and look at all the old magazines. I love that. But Boxing Monthly's website is this underutilized tool that a lot of boxing fans don't know about. Go to boxingmonthly.com. There's all sorts of material on there. And there's so many things, so many different perspectives, because people think Boxing Monthly, oh, UK. Well, look, I'm an American guy that works for Boxing Monthly, right? There are writers for BM all over the world, and there's stuff that's 99% of the stuff on the website isn't in the magazine. There's very little crossover. So you can go there and get completely different content. So even if you subscribe to the magazine, go to that site, man. There's all kinds of cool stuff. And the Montero On Boxing page has every episode of the Neutral Corner on there. Boom. One place you can go to every episode. But there's a bunch of other stuff on there I highly recommend, and it's free. Boxing Monthly, the website, charges nothing. There are other sites like Ring TV and stuff like that that are now starting to charge boxing fans for certain content. If you want to watch certain things, read certain things, you have to pay money for that. You know, I'm not hating on them, that's fine. But Boxing Monthly, totally free. Totally free. So it's not owned by a promoter. It's not owned by a sanctioning organization or a media conglomerate. None of this stuff. That's my favorite site, guys. Go there. If you want more of the fan perspective, Boxing News 24 is a good place, but you get some crazies on there. But those of you who want to try to start writing and blogging and stuff, that's a great place to start. Anyone can post there, and you can really get a pulse of a feel for the pulse of the fans on that site. So that's a fun place to go to. Good chat rooms too. As far as club level fighters, there's too many to mention, man. But I would highly recommend, guys, if you really, if you've been bitten by the boxing bug and you can't get enough, and support the club shows. Those are the lifeblood of the sport. In between the big events you see on TV, the big pay-per-views, there's club shows in your area. Even if you live in an area where there's nothing going on, there are club shows being streamed now. I've talked about the LA Fight Club stuff. That's Golden Boy Promotions. They're a big, powerful promoter. They're doing fine. But somebody like Thompson Boxing that streams their fights, they're all club shows. They stream their fights on, I think, their Facebook page, their website, their Twitter. If you have a phone and some sort of social media account, you can watch those. You can watch them, and they're free. And they're losing money on those cards. They're doing it as an investment in the future. And they just had their first world champion, Daniel Roman, went over to Japan. I was part of the broadcast team for that fight. And seeing, it was when he got back to America, they had a fight, or a party, basically, a get-together to watch the fight again. It was at a sports bar, and everybody that was involved in that promotion was there. So I brought Tiffany, you know, as my +1, and we went, and seeing the way they all treated each other, it was such a family-like atmosphere. And it just gave me such an appreciation for the club-level fighters and shows. And they were so excited that they got their first world champion. That was a game-changing thing for them. Support those types of endeavors, especially people that are having the foresight to invest the money to stream it for free for you guys. If you really want to watch boxing, there it is, free. So support that kind of stuff, brother. Favorite Thanksgiving side. Here's where a lot of you are going to think I'm weird. Mastacholi. Now, I know, weird, right? In my family, we do the turkey, the stuffing, the gravy, all that stuff, right? Your traditional stuff, but we also do some pasta. We kind of do like an Italian side. And I love my mom's mastacholi. Now, for the traditional American side, I like the stuffing. We add Italian spices and we add certain things to it. We kind of remix it and it makes it taste better, in my opinion. So I like the stuffing. But as far as just for my family favorite side, it's the mastacholi. Favorite holiday? You know, I do love Thanksgiving because to me it is about giving thanks and being around your family. It's not this commercial holiday, you know. Growing up in Detroit, it was special because the Detroit Lions play every Thanksgiving. They usually get beat up really bad, but still, it's a special thing for Detroit people, right? It makes the holiday that much more special. But that's probably my favorite commercial holiday. I do like New Year's, but not in the sense that New Year's, most people celebrate New Year's like they go out, they want to go out and party and they want to go downtown to some club. And to me, that's amateur hour. I do that shit every weekend. So if you're the person who does that once a year on the holiday where everyone else does it, to me, you're kind of just being like everyone else. I like New Year's because to me, it is a time of reflection. A year is coming to an end. And I'm big on like time capsules and moments of time and breaking down segments of my life and understanding how I got where I am now, what happened here, how it led to what happened there, and breaking things down, right? I'm analytical like that about life. And at the end of every year, in the days leading up to New Year's and the days after, I'm charging my batteries for the next year and I'm making plans and goals. And I'm also looking back at what I accomplished in that year. And that's why, to me, it's my favorite holiday. To me, New Year's should be a personal time of reflection and analyzation of what you've accomplished, how you've grown, how you are a different person this New Year's than you were last New Year's. If you're the same person you were last year at this time, you just wasted a year of your life. There should have been growth and accomplishment. Maybe it's financial, maybe it's business, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's fitness, whatever it is. There should have been growth. And then you start planning for the next year. And in that sense, my birthday, it's not a holiday, but my birthday is in June. So it's kind of the halfway point of the year. It's kind of like my personal New Year's, if you will. So again, my birthday is kind of that reflection period where most people are just going out and getting messed up, you know, and sometimes you do a little bit of that, of course. But for me, my birthday and New Year's are these reflective times to look at what I've done, how I've grown, what's changed. That's, to me, my favorite holiday. So I'm going to say New Year's, which is probably going to be a lame answer that a lot of you think is lame. Anonymous. Oh, this is the last question. Whew, good, because I'm losing my voice. I need a partner on these videos. Somebody intern with me, damn it. I need somebody else in here to help me talk. Anonymous, have you ever thought about being in a boxing movie like Creed or The Fighter, Southpaw? Do you still do improv? Was the bits of comedy or improv on YouTube just an acting show reel or something I keep up? All right, so the first question, with a boxing themed movie, I'd love to be in a boxing themed movie. The thing is, I've never had an opportunity. I've been submitted casting-wise for a few of them, but if you look at the way boxing movies are cast, generally, the fighters are very young. They're in their early 20s and stuff, unless it's the leading man, which obviously I'm never going to get that kind of a part. But for the supporting roles, and now what they're doing more and more is they're using professional fighters. If you looked at Creed, a lot of the fighters were pros. But I have several issues that hold me back from those movies. Number one, most star actors are short. They're like 5'6", 5'7", like Mark Wahlberg's like 5'6", Jake Gyllenhaal's a little guy. Most of these guys are just little. Who's the guy in Creed? Michael Jordan. He's a little guy. He's probably bigger than Mark Wahlberg, but they're little guys. Very rarely is an A-lister actor over 6 feet tall. It just doesn't happen much. Most of the guys in Hollywood are very short. So I would tower over a guy like Mark Wahlberg. It wouldn't work, right? So casting-wise, I'm never going to be a main guy in a fight scene unless I'm a bad guy, which a lot of the stuff I have been cast for on soap operas and such, I'm either a cop or a thug because they want a big guy for those types of parts. But for leading roles and like big supporting roles where you're working with the A-list actor, you got to be a similar height just for shooting, framing, all that stuff, and not to make the lead star look little. So I'm too big I'm too big for most of these parts. And I'm a little too old for the fighter parts, and I'm way too young for the trainer parts. So maybe in 10, 20 years, I'll be right to play the grizzled old trainer or something like that. Once I'm gray and older looking and I'm in my 50s or 60s, maybe then. But right now, maybe I could be a dude training in the background, right? It just hasn't happened yet. I'd love to, though. Of course, I'd freaking love to. I need an agent who could make that happen for me. And right now, I'm not my agent. Between you and me, because he won't watch this, he sucks. I need a new one. So we'll see what happens with that next year. As far as the improv comedy stuff, no, man, that wasn't just for an acting reel or whatever. I did a bunch of improv and comedy and stuff here in Hollywood. It's something I fell into kind of on accident. Certain friends of mine who were big in that stuff got me involved in it. I never considered myself a funny guy, but I learned that I can be a funny guy, and I can be silly and not take myself so seriously. That's why I really enjoyed it. A lot of the improv clubs and stuff in LA, that's like a big thing out here. A lot of it's really overrated. They're not that funny. In fact, a lot of them are a waste of your time, but some of them are pretty good, and some of the people really are pretty talented, and you learn to think on your feet. The skills I learned doing that have correlated very well to boxing. When I'm doing interviews and I'm doing shows and I'm on the radio live and I got to be quick, that improv comedy training actually has helped me thrive in boxing. It's funny how all these things, really it's all the entertainment industry. If you think about it, it's all the same industry. It all correlates, it all connects. But I haven't done it in a while, man. As boxing has been getting bigger and bigger for me, I've done less and less of that stuff. I've been doing less of the acting in the comedy. But of course, I still dabble occasionally, and I'll try to get back into that more at some point. If I ever have like a show coming up or something, I'll let you guys know. I'll talk about it. But I've just been too busy with boxing, man, which is really great. This has been going bigger and better than I ever thought it would, and there's so much on the horizon. It's like I'm trying to be patient. I want it right now. But there's certain things that we're preparing for, me and Tiffany, that is in motion. I've been telling you guys this forever, but it really is in motion. It's just got to all fall into place. And it's starting to piece by piece by piece. You're going to see more and more growth in 2018. It's going to be awesome. So, guys, that's it. I need to go drink some water. I'm losing my freaking voice. But thank you so much for the questions. If you have any follow-ups, drop them on here in the comment section on this video. Maybe we'll do a couple more of these in the coming months. I think they're pretty fun. I got to start dividing these up into shorter videos. And for that one guy whose wife hates me, I'm sorry. I promise. Shorter videos at the end of the year. Guys, check out the Patreon. Check out the shirts. Just to piss off that one guy even more. And I'll see you at the fights.